A perfectly crafted, well-designed ketogenic diet factors in 10 characteristics. These are those 10. I can't take 100% credit for a lot of this. Okay, a lot of this was spun up by Dr. Jeff Volek and Dr. Phinney, who really have pioneered a lot of the way when it comes down to fat adaptation, when it comes down to properly utilizing ketones in the body. But what I've been able to do is take these 10 characteristics and articulate it in a way that's going to allow you to apply it. Because I do feel that if you follow these 10 sort of kind of patterns, you can really build a great ketogenic diet that yields some amazing fat utilization results, can help out your brain, but most of all, just help you be sustainable and really get the best results. So let's dive right in. Number one, whatever you do with your well-crafted keto diet, it should give you sustainable amounts of ketones. Now, something very important to remember here is that those sustainable amount of ketones don't need to be super high. They can be low. What you want is you just want some sustainability. You don't want huge undulations all the time. And what that means is you want to try to find the right kind of diet that works as far as your macronutrients are concerned and stick with it for the most part. Now, I have another video that breaks down what we call the 4 phases of the ketogenic diet, and that kind of goes into it a little bit deeper, but this is just an entry point. So you want to find the macros that work for you and then stick with those. So if you find that a certain amount of protein works, a certain amount of fat works, and a certain amount of carbohydrates work to keep your levels stable, stick with those macronutrients and then just start switching around different foods as a plug and play within those macros. You like 20 grams of protein? That seems to work for you? Then do 20 grams of protein from beef, then try 20 grams of protein from chicken, then from fish. But you want to keep those macros relatively stable. Number 2 piggybacks off of that, and that's making sure you're getting adequate macros that ultimately lead up to adequate amounts of calories. So when I say adequate macronutrients, it means that you really should be focusing on getting enough protein and enough fat and just enough in the way of things like fiber. Now, personally, I'll give you my spin on this. I legitimately feel that people respond better on a ketogenic diet when they have good amounts of protein as well. A lot of people will argue that you want to have higher amounts of fat on a ketogenic diet, but I have a little bit of a beef with that. You see, the big concern that I have is that your body needs to upregulate something very specific called PPAR alpha. Now, PPAR alpha is only activated when your body is utilizing stored fat tissue. So when your body starts to liberate fat from your belly and things like that, it activates this particular process, this PPAR alpha. This PPAR alpha upregulates fat transportation within the body. It upregulates how much fat you use as heat. It upregulates fat oxidation, how much your cells actually use, and it upregulates something called CD36, which gets the fat into the cell. So this can only be activated if you are tapping into your stored fat. And my concern is that if we focus so much on fat, we forget about protein and we end up with such a high ratio of fat that we're never really pulling our stored tissue, we're just using the fat that we're eating. So that's a very important piece. So this third characteristic is that a well-crafted, sustainable ketogenic diet has sufficient electrolytes coming in. I cannot tell you how many people I know that quit keto, and I legitimately mean this, they quit it because they just end up with all the symptoms of electrolyte deficiency. They end up not getting enough sodium, not getting enough magnesium, not getting enough potassium, and then they go work out and it messes up that ratio even more, because when you are on keto, your electrolytes will get out of whack unless you are making a concerted effort to correct them. My recommended electrolyte is down below. It's called LMNT, Element. A good friend of mine, Rob Wolf, who I know very, very well, has helped formulate this product, and I highly recommend it. There is a special discount, like legit discount, if you're watching this video. You get the Element electrolytes, you get 8 packets of them absolutely free. You just pay $5 for shipping. So you can use the link down below, or you can go to drinklmnt.com/Thomas. That's drinklmnt.com/Thomas. And also, if you end up not liking the product,
One of the best things about Element is they have some of the best customer service in the industry. So that's one of the things that their fans rave about. If there's ever an issue, it's easy refunds, easy customer service, and honestly, that is a rarity in today's consumer world.
Number 4, as far as the characteristics go, is to make sure that a majority of your calories come from fat. Okay, very, very important you pay attention to the particulars of what I'm saying. A majority of your calories come from fat, not your total grams, right? So 100 grams of fat is not the same as 100 grams of protein. 100 grams of fat is 900 calories. 100 grams of protein is 400 calories. So a majority of your calories need to be coming from fat. That's not that hard to do, but it is a very, very important rule and a very important characteristic of a perfectly crafted ketogenic diet. Number 5 is not to get hung up on the calories. Now, there is a law of physics that applies here. Okay? It's called thermodynamics. If you consume a ton of calories, then yes, you will gain weight. But the ketogenic diet is a little bit unique because you're manipulating insulin levels a little bit, which means as far as different catalysts for fat burning, you are already in much more of a fat burning mode. So I hate it when people get so hung up on calories that they lose sight of what they're really accomplishing. Much of the benefit of a ketogenic diet comes from the effect of the ketones acting upon the cells and the tissues, not necessarily the fuel. You will have days where you don't lose weight, but you're still getting the benefit secondarily of ketones on your body. So please have a rough idea of where your basal metabolic rate is, but do not live and die by your caloric intake. The 6th characteristic, and one of the ones that I find to be the most important, is a well-crafted, perfect ketogenic diet is largely made up of unprocessed foods. Fun fact, processed foods take less calories to utilize. Meaning processed foods are so processed, your body doesn't have to work as hard to break them down, to metabolize them. That means it's like comparing apples to oranges in terms of how they're broken down. They're almost like different foods. A processed cookie is going to take less energy to break down because it's already processed for you. So you require less enzymes, you require less metabolism. It's magically fortified to just be easy fuel, which means easy waistline increase, right? The harder the food is to masticate and to break down, the better it's going to be a lot of times because it requires more energy to process it. It's called the thermic effect of food. Metabolism itself plays a role. But processed food in general on a ketogenic diet is usually ridden with omega-6s and these fats that are going to completely derail you if you're not careful. In moderation is one thing, but you have to exercise and pump the brakes a bit. The 7th characteristic, particularly from Dr. Phinney and Dr. Volek, says that if you consume less than 1,000 calories, it doesn't count as a true day of doing keto. You should be trying to get more calories in. This is one where I have a slight departure, and I have to share my details. I am a big intermittent faster. I lost 100 pounds. Intermittent fasting was a tremendous component of that. And there are many days where I ended up less than 1,000 calories, but my net result was still high levels of ketones and my body using fat. Now I understand where they're coming from this because they're trying to preach to everybody, and a well-crafted ketogenic diet should still be paying attention to keeping calories high. But you can't on one hand say that calories don't matter, and on another hand say that it does matter if you're eating too little. Okay, fasting and caloric deprivation have their benefits. So don't be afraid to have low days every now and then, but do not have more than 1 day per week under 1,000 calories. Let's recraft it as that rule. The 8th characteristic is that you need to have maintenance if you're trying to be able to use the ketogenic diet for any kind of chronic conditions. And what I mean by maintenance is you need to have ketones be your maintenance level. You need to give it time and you need to do it for a while. The reason why is because ketones are a signaling device. Okay, so that means if you're using the ketogenic diet to try to get over some kind of chronic hump, trying to deal with an issue, then it takes time for those ketones to act upon whatever signaling device or receptor it's trying to act upon. Remember, ketones are not just fuel. They send a signal for our genes to express in different ways to create a different cascade of things, ultimately maybe helping you recover from some given ailment. So you have to give it time. You can't just expect it to fix itself, and you have to keep those ketone levels sustainable throughout that period of time, which leads into number 9, which couples up with it. If you are doing this for therapeutic reasons and you're trying to get the ultimate effect out of the ketones themselves, you need to try not to cycle in and out. Now, here's where I have a slight departure too. 10 years doing keto. Okay, 10 years doing keto, and I will tell you that for about 5 years of it, I didn't want to come out of keto at all, and I stuck with it. My best results came after I started cycling in and out of keto. Mentally, physically, libido, you name it. However, the caveat there is that I was fat adapted. I had been keto for close to 5 years and then started cycling in and out. These characteristics speak mainly towards beginners. And quite frankly, you should try to stay in ketosis and not bounce in and out until you know you are fat adapted, which in my opinion takes anywhere from 90 days to 6 months and then continues to adapt and evolve further on. So point is, cycling in and out of keto isn't bad. You just have to make sure you do it right. And the 10th characteristic is one that I think we all just kind of live and breathe. And that's the fact that it does not have to adhere to standard dietary guidelines. Standard dietary guidelines tell us to eat 12 servings of grains each day. Show me someone that eats 12 servings of grains that really looks the way that you want to look. I'm sure you could find a couple. The reality is we are here for different reasons, and if you're building a well-crafted ketogenic diet, you have to turn off the noise and you have to be able to just focus on what works for you. And don't forget to check out Element down below in the description. Again, that special January offer where you can get it for free, just pay shipping, is only for January and only for people watching this video, so check them out down below. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow.